Welcome to Resilient Minds 365, where we discuss the resilient stories of entrepreneurs, professionals, and students with mental health challenges to encourage you to strive, thrive, and live in abundance. I'm your host, Cleoni Crawford. Today, we have a special guest here with you. Today, we have Dr. Lauren N Penn. She's a chiropractor, inspirational speaker, health practitioner, and a charismatic and impactful community leader who's building a thriving chiropractic practice in the Colorado Springs area. She brings more than 30 years of hands-on diagnostic treatment and holistic healthcare experience to her practice. She's truly an amazing woman, and we're going to learn more about her today. So for all you out there, I'd like to welcome Dr. Lauren N. Penn. Yay! Lauren, thank you very much for coming on the show today. So I hope I got your intro right.
It was beautiful. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So you are a chiropractor.
I am.
So tell me, how long have you been doing that? How long have you been in that field?
I graduated from chiropractic school in 2017. So I've been a chiropractor for 3 years. Prior to that, I worked in surgery for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've had a little bit of experience with being in the medical field and working with doctors on a daily basis.
That's good. That's good. So you are definitely well aware of the healthcare field, and you've been really well versed in that, which is amazing. Awesome. So we're gonna go straight into the interview.
Okay.
We're gonna just dive right in.
All right.
All right. So the first question I have for you is, what is or was your mental health diagnosis, and when were you diagnosed?
In 2013, I went to go get tested for PTSD. But prior to that, I lived for 13 years being diagnosed with being bipolar.
Ah, I see.
And so just off and on, people gave me their opinion about my personality, and they had told me forever, oh, you're bipolar, you're bipolar, you're bipolar. And I had lived for 13 years with people saying that to me. And I'll leave it at that.
Sometimes it's just crazy, what words do, like the power of them. And it's like, it's almost like they're speaking things into existence, which is
exactly.
It's kind of sad, but I understand what it is to be bipolar, because I also live with bipolar disorder, bipolar 1. So, but sometimes people use the word out of context.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Can I tell you?
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you're bipolar, so because you're acting bipolar, or like things like that. It's very offensive in a sense,
It's absolutely offensive. And I know for myself, the first time somebody said that to me, I went to a psychologist to figure out why I was having so many problems with passing organic chem, because I wanted to be a chemical engineer. That's what I wanted to go to school.
Okay.
And I did excellent, like in all the calc classes and the math classes. There was one I didn't do so well in, but I kept failing this class over and over and over. And I was just like, I'm smart enough to know how to do the work. How come I can't pass this class?
Right.
And when I went to the psychologist, he said, he's like, you're highly intelligent. And I was like, exactly. So how come I can't pass this class? And then in his assessment, he said, are you bipolar? And he didn't ask me was I bipolar. He just asked me questions that led up to that, being bipolar. And at the end of his assessment, he did discuss with me, um, he did discuss with me some problems I had with learning.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. I already had dyslexia. I already knew I had dyslexia.
Mhm.
And then he was like, and you're bipolar. And I'm like,
Wow.
okay. Um, I didn't see that coming. I didn't buy into what he was saying because I was functional.
Yes.
I
Yes.
went to work. I held down a job. I was a mother. I wasn't on any medications. I can make it and be in life and go through life. And I thought, I'm not that. I don't have that.
Mhm.
Um, and then when I had my menstrual cycle, my attitude was like really, I mean, I had severe mood swings, but I didn't have like menstrual cycle problems. Like
Mhm.
I wasn't skipping any, mine was regular. It showed up like clockwork. And I was like, what is this? You know, but I would get like really angry and really mean, and or I'd get really depressed. And so I was by several OBGYNs, they would say, we can put you on a time release Prozac. I was like, I don't want that. So for 13 years, I literally went through a period where people kept saying I was bipolar.
Mhm.
When my son was 17, he had asthma. We took him to a chiropractor. I was seeing that chiropractor as a patient as well.
Mhm.
And he said to me, you know that you have a low thyroid problem.
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, I know that. I had been told that before.
Right.
The next thing he said changed my life, though. He said, you have no adrenal function.
Okay.
And I was like, well, what does that mean? He says, you stay in fight and flight. Like you never get a rest period. Your adrenals are always going. You're always ready.
Right.
That when you put those two conditions side by side, you look bipolar.
Yes.
And I was like, what? I had never heard that before.
Mhm.
And I was like, so he basically said, you're not bipolar, you have a nutritional deficit.
Wow.
And I was like, what? He started treating me chiropractically. He adjusted me. He gave me some supplements. I was on supplements for a few months, and my personality stopped having those mood swings.
Hmm.
My thyroid got fixed. My adrenals went back to how my adrenal function started working regularly. And the only thing I really did have was PTSD.
Interesting. That's crazy.
And I was like, that is so. So I had said, this is the kind of doctor that I want to be. I want to help people with the least amount of invasiveness
Yes.
that they can actually get well
Mhm.
and not be, you know, sometimes mental people with mental conditions, they do need drugs. And
Yeah.
I'm not against that.
Right. Right.
But I read a book this year called The Great Pretender. And it was about a lady who was diagnosed being schizophrenic, but she wasn't schizophrenic. She actually had a neurological disorder.
Hmm.
And so I was like, that is so crazy. One of the last things that people do is the they forget to check to see if a person has a nutritional deficit. They don't run labs or they don't run CAT scans or PET scans, and they forget the actual medical side, but you can't separate the medical side from the mental side from the medical side.
Right.
You have to rule out all of those things and then rule in some things. And so she found the lady in the book, The Great Pretender, she found a person, she met a person who had the same thing she had.
Mhm.
but they got their problem resolved. And then after they got their problem resolved, the she was able to tell this other lady, you need to get checked out by like a neurologist and figure out and see. And so when she went, she was like, I was on all this mental medication because people thought I was schizophrenic. They thought that I had all these mental diseases when in fact I didn't.
Hmm.
And I was like, this is so crazy. And I see it all the time. I see it with women more often. And Edgar Allan Poe has a book called like Dr. Feathertail and something else. I can't quite remember the name of it, but it's about an insane asylum, and the patients end up becoming the doctors in the insane asylum, and then they kind of overrule the insane asylum and put the physicians away. It's really funny, you know. Poe has a very interesting viewpoint on how he defines poetic justice, right?
Right.
But one thing that even the crazy patients were saying was they don't look at the person, they just look at all the symptomology. And that's kind of what we're falling into today. We're just looking at symptomology, but we're not really finding out. For me, 13 years, I was a single parent. I worked 2 jobs. I went to school. I was a business owner. I was a landlady. I developed a business. So my adrenals were always at 100%.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
And so if we're not really looking to see what that person's lifestyle is like, what the other testing is, and we're like, you know what, I'm having these mood swings, and they're like, oh, you have mood swings, you're bipolar. If you're hormonally imbalanced, you will look like you have a mental disease. If you lack vitamin D, you will look like you have a mental disease. And
Hmm.
so you can be misdiagnosed.
Wow. Wow. It's sad because I mean, um, doctors have so much power when it comes to making diagnoses about whatever they think a client may have, a patient may have,
Exactly.
and it's very subjective. The DSM-5 is it's very subjective as to how they even come up with who has a mental illness and who doesn't.
Exactly.
And and the thing is, once you get diagnosed, it's like
It
it's
stays in your record.
yeah, it stays in your record, and it's like you're labeled for life.
Yes. One can reverse that by getting reexamined.
Getting re-examined.
You could rebuttal it and you could get it reexamined. And if in the rebuttal you show that you have proof that says that you're not, I had a hormonal imbalance. I went to endocrinologist and they began resolving those issues, then your problems go, that can be removed from your file, or it can be amended in your file. You can your medical record can always be amended, but you have to chase it.
Okay, understood.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. That does. So maybe I'll go to the next question. So tell us, what is your mental health story of resilience? How did you overcome? What did you have to do to bounce back from all those 13 years of being labeled as bipolar, and then you also now you have PTSD, and how did you bounce back and how did you get
I,
to today?
well, for the 13 years, I just said no. Like Nancy Reagan says, just say no. This
Yes,
is your brain and this is your brain on drugs. I just said no. I was like, I don't want those drugs. I don't want to take those drugs. I don't want that for myself.
hmm
I don't want to be on Prozac. I mean, I worked with a bunch of ladies who were on all these Prozac and all the mood changing SSR drugs that would help them with their problem.
hmm
And it didn't work. And I was like, well, those people, I've seen 20 years of those drugs never work.
Right.
So exercise. I did some food elimination from my diet, and I kept saying no until I found the answer. I believed that there was a better answer. And I took vitamins. I took vitamin B. I took different vitamins. I took different supplements that would help me with my mood. Exercise always helped me with my mood. And I just said no until I found the answer. When I found Dr. Artis and he told me that about myself, I was like, this is an answer that my soul feels better with.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I feel this makes sense to me. The
Right.
other things didn't make sense to me because there was nothing that happened to me to make me shift and be someone else, or shift and have two personalities.
Right. Right. Right.
Does that make sense? Because
Yes.
if you're bipolar, you have to have two of yous.
Yeah. The
And
depression.
there was only one of me's.
Right. Right. So, what was I going to ask the next question? Resilience. So tell us more about the PTSD. What type of trauma did you have to go through in order to be diagnosed with PTSD?
I was sexually assaulted in the military.
So you were in the military.
I was a soldier.
Wow. How many years were you a soldier?
5 years.
5 years. Wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
Hmm.
Amazing.
And I went from being in this really intimate group of soldiers that we were a dispatch to being attached to another group of people, to another battalion. And the predator was a married man
Hmm.
who was very nice, had his own family,
Of course.
and he assaulted me when I was in the field. And I had a crisis of belief in who God was, and grew very, it wasn't necessarily the sexual assault that I was really angry about. Although I was like, what's this guy's problem? But not having a support group will really mess your mind up. Not having a shoulder to cry on, a friend to turn to, somebody to encourage you. When I was in the military, I went and saw a psychologist and he told me to journal, and that was it. One meeting. And he said, journal, you'll be fine. That
Goodness.
was it. That
Well,
was my treatment. Hmm.
wonderful advice from
Yep.
the doctor.
Yeah. That was my treatment. But I promise you, from that point on, my life digressed. And when it digressed, I turned into I could have been bipolar. I turned into a different person. I understood how to manage a workload. And then I created another personality for me to um, be able to exploit my exploits. and
Okay.
I and I did that for a really, really long time. It wasn't until the Holy Spirit told me I was going to be a doctor. He
Mhm.
said, not a doctor, a healer.
Ah, I like
That
that.
I put that life away, because I was like, people can't come see me and know that Dr. Penn is living this like double life. And I was living a double life for a really long time until I up until the maybe a year or two before I went to chiropractic school.
Okay. Okay.
But I started compartmentalizing my personalities. I had a protector like every person has, who has multiple personality disorders. I mean, I was androgynous, so I wasn't really attracting men, but at the same time, I became a predator looking for men to do whatever exploits I wanted to do, because I wanted to take my power back.
Yes.
I had a pseudonym, and I lived under that pseudonym for a really long time. um, I um, I had the worker, like I had the sensible person, like this is the personality that has to show up at work, at church, at social events, at family events, that everybody knows this person. So
Yes.
I had within myself several personalities that I would be able to cope with living life. But I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't schizophrenic. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have multiple personality disorders. I was just like, I have to put these people in separate boxes that I could live.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing that I used for PTSD. I mean, same thing I used when I was quote unquote bipolar, I used for PTSD. And then when I went to chiropractic school, my whole life changed because I worked in a very hostile work environment as an OR tech. It was hostile for me.
Mhm.
Um, and being in 27 years of that, I compartmentalized for a really long time a lot of things,
Okay.
you know.
Mhm.
Um, and then when I went to chiropractic school, I had to come out of that. And it took a group of people to put me back together. Just like if it from the day that that occurrence happened, a group of people could have put me back together. All of my friends in the military had been deployed, and where I was stationed was being broken down, and people were going to other places. So I had nobody to cover me.
Yeah. Wow.
But when I got to chiropractic school, just the reverse happened. I was I had to detox from being in such a hostile environment and lose that shield that I put around myself. And then I had to, and then I had these friends, I had these people God sent me. I knew that God sent them to me because before I met them, He told me He was going to send them.
That's amazing. I love that.
And then they covered me because people thought I was crazy at school and I was lofty. I was crazy. My ideology was, I challenged the teacher. Some of the teachers didn't like me. It was a lot of things in school, and this is higher education.
Mhm.
And so those people put me back together. I got a time, what I call adult respite care, to not have to work, think about, just think about being in a crazy, healthy environment, and I could learn and restore myself. And I did see the school psychologist when I was attending chiropractic school because I had some mental blocks that I needed to overcome to be a better healer.
Okay. Amazing. Wow. So I guess you did mention. So my next question is, what did you have to do to overcome or bounce back from your low points? So list all the resources, but you did mention you had a support group within your circle, your new circle,
I did.
and that's so important. Having that support group, it's a big thing that many people they don't
They
have.
miss it. Yeah, they miss it. And I talk about that in my What Doctors Don't Tell You About Chronic Pain.
Mm.
It is a ebook that I'm going to put out, but it's also going to be um, a place where people want to call me and get some clarification, and they could set up times to do a consultation on that. I explain how to heal yourself from chronic pain, or how to live a sustainable life with chronic pain. But for me, I prayed a lot. I cried a lot on the floor. The floor and I became very intimate. I cried a lot there. I prayed a lot there. And I also, music, I have in my house, it says, music is the medicine of the soul. A friend of
Ooh.
mine made that for me to put over my piano. But music, I grew up on music. When it came to studying, and if I couldn't study, I had to turn music on. That they call it white noise. And music really got me through a lot of things. Um, I'm a Stevie Wonder fan.
Oh, love him.
Songs in the Key of Life. You could be on a deserted island. That's got to be on your list, right? Songs of the Key of Life. And so a lot okay, I'm just saying, Stevie Wonder, hey.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
but gospel music always, because I always go back to my creator and I ask him, you make this clay. How does this clay begin to work its way through the situation, that on the other side of it, I will be pure as gold? You know, this is the clay. You are the potter. What is this mess?
Right, right. Wow, amazing. So I have another question for you. I'm going to come back to you about that music questions.
Okay.
What are three things that you wish you had available when you were at your lowest point?
At my lowest point, I wish I had a team.
Yes,
I
yes.
did. When I looked at all the other things, I wish I had a team. I don't know if counseling then would have been really great for me, but I wish I had a team, and a team that loved me.
Yeah.
not just a team of doctors who would give me medicine or, all those things. Like, I needed people to love me in
Interesting.
a way that would restore me, because physical intimacy is an invitation.
Hmm.
And when somebody invades your invitation, you need to be restored with love.
Yes.
Because if you don't get that love right away, then your your search or quest or your dismissiveness of intimacy becomes really askewed.
Okay.
And you're not looking for love. You're looking for vengeance, or you're looking for restoration in a situation that's never going to happen.
Hmm.
And that's the journey that I went on. And then I just became really I became really crazy. Like, I was just like real I was really crazy. I'm not going to go into all the details of my craziness, but I promise you I was really crazy. And then I'd show up at work like a regular person, you know. And it was really funny because when I was in the military, people thought I was a lesbian.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I got that a lot. But I was like, and my friend would say, no, 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 Penn's not a lesbian. And I do know that for a fact. And so just your identification of who you are begins to change. And that's what happened for me. I went from being a very intellectual, happy person. I had my own regimen, to being somebody I was miserable. I wanted to kill myself.
Yeah.
And from the moment that the guy took from a part of me without an invitation, I was suicidal for a really long time. When
Yeah.
life got really hard, I wanted to kill myself.
Definitely.
So a team and love would have been the two greatest things that I could have had. I couldn't think of a third one. Those were the two that I really needed.
Yeah. I can understand. I can definitely identify with that because when you suffer with a mental illness, it can be very lonely because you're so misunderstood because people don't know how to deal with the unknown. And because of that, people would rather, resist you, actually, kind of avoid you.
I do.
Yeah, because they don't know exactly what to do. So what can you do? So I'll go to my next question. So, what words of hope can you offer to our listeners?
Oh, I'll tell you. I'll tell you my scriptures.
Okay.
Now, I'm not such a great Bible thumper that I can tell you where to find them. But I know this one is in Google the main words.
Exactly.
You are fearfully and wonderfully created.
Yes, I love that one.
I knew you in the secret place in your mother's womb before there was the access of the world. I created you.
Amazing. Those are beautiful.
My other one is um Hebrew 11,
Okay.
1. Now, it says now. So there was a before, but
Mhm.
now faith is
The substance.
the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so through this, if you created me, if you be the potter and I be the clay, and you created me and you knew me before there was the world had an access, like in Greek mythology, you see that Atlas holds the world on his back, and you knew me before
Hmm.
then this too shall have a pass. This too shall end and have a pass.
That's right.
You know, and
Right.
there should be on the other side greater things for me. And
Hmm.
that when I look at Joseph and all that Joseph went through, I think when Jesus says there is no temptation that has not been beset before man, this is all these things are common to man. This too is common to man. You have something, there's a reason why I have this testimony. Now it's up to me to figure out why this is my journey.
Right. Wow.
So
Amazing.
those are the things, even in the bellows of pain and depression and being misconceived, the misconceptions of what people would think about me, there's still something out there that is greater that I seek for, because I have a purpose and I have a destiny. If I would have stopped, if I would have killed myself,
Yes,
the people that I help in my practice today wouldn't have gotten my help.
exactly.
This is what I was created to do.
Right.
I was created to help these people. I was created for this moment, for this time, for such a time as this, like Esther says, right? For such a time as this, were you created,
Hmm.
you
Amazing.
know? And even in your bellow of sorrow, just like David when he was at Ziklag and his men were against him and Saul was against him, you have to dig deep and encourage yourself.
Yeah.
And that is the word that swarmed on the inside of me that made me work through the low point.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we take depression and we're saying we're depressed and we make it terminal.
Yes.
But sometimes you have to get to the low place, just like the valley, so that you can get to the mountaintop. The mountain is pretty, but there's no air up there. And the valley is a low place, but it's pretty there.
Right.
And so we go between the valley and we go between the mountain all the time,
Yes.
so
Yes.
that we can find the mustard seeds of faith, those high moments, those low moments that shape us into who we were created to be.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Amazing. Well, thank you very much. So with that said, we're going to switch over back to what we were talking about early. You talked about music being something that helped you.
Oh
So
yeah.
as I do, I wrote a book about music's impact on my life,
Oh yeah.
called The Music of My Life. And basically, on this part of the show, we talk about music therapy and
Mm-hmm.
how it actually helps you with your mental health. So we know that you love Stevie Wonder.
Stephen Wonder, he's my man.
We know that you love gospel.
I do love gospel.
So my question to you is, if you were to think of a song that best describes your journey, what would it be and why?
My journey. Oh, I read that question wrong. Okay. And it's not so I did the pre-questions, but now that I'm thinking of it, I know everybody's a Kanye hater right now. But I love this song by Kanye West, and it's Welcome to the Good Life, right?
Okay, okay,
You know,
okay.
because I'm like, after you've done all of that,
Yes,
right? After you've been through all of that and you have overcome, that's what you get to.
yes, the good life.
The good life.
All right,
Welcome to the good life. I
okay.
would say that best describes my journey because I've been somewhere
Yes,
and I've been through some things
right.
and I suffered
Mm-hmm.
and I had joy and
Okay,
I had pain.
right.
You know, and now I'm at the good life.
The good life. I love
And
it.
the good life doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard. There won't be more suffering but the good life just means you became an overcomer. You
Yes,
know, Kurt Franklin has a song, We're Overcomers, right?
right, right.
And I'm like, I am an overcomer by those are the songs that I'm listening to. I know it may seem like a divergent dichotomy, but music is for the soul.
Yeah. It plays keys that the soul and heart just, desires and needs to express. Is just music is just I love it.
I
Absolutely.
could I could literally be in a very horrible mood. I could be in the horriblest of horrible moods. And when I'm with my significant and I'm like, I don't want to hate you at this moment. Please just put on some good music. My attitude instantly, my attitude, I'm like, okay, we good.
Yeah, we're
All
good.
right. And it washes a lot of the cares away. And it really, I mean, we look at Lucifer and we understand that people call him Satan and call him the devil, and he was a fallen angel and he was all of that. But Lucifer was an orchestra within himself,
Right. Mhm.
which which gave him the God complex. And no, he is not God. But when we understand what music can do for the soul, that's why we have worship and praise to break up the fallow ground. But if we listen to fallow music, it builds a fallow ground. So you have to be able to listen to something that is uplifting, that inspires the soul, so that you could break up the fallow ground in your life, and you could celebrate all that there's before us.
Hmm. It's so true. I mean, when the thing about music, it just changes in the atmosphere. Music
Boom,
can change any atmosphere. I mean,
boom.
and that's why you got to be so careful the type of music you listen to, because
Absolutely.
you could be in the best of moods and listen to a song that's about death and hate and anger and pain, and your attitude, the atmosphere, everything around you would just change. However, you can be in the worst of moods and you can just basically, you know what I'm saying? So, with that said, I'd like to know, how can we stay in touch with you? What are your social media handles?
I'm on Facebook. You can find me at Pinpoint Chiropractic and Wellness.
Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn as Dr. Penn, Dr. Lauren N Penn. I am on Instagram as Pinpoint Chiropractic and Wellness as well. Pinpoint Chiro, I believe, um,
Perfect.
as well.
Perfect. So we're going to end this off. And to all you resilient minds out there, so first we're going to thank Dr. Penn for taking this time to come on our show. And to all you resilient minds out there, until next time, please subscribe to us on all our platforms. And don't forget to rate the show and leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Also, join the community of resilient minds and sign up for our monthly newsletter at www.cleonicrawford.com. Be sure to grab a copy of my book, The Music of My Life, and 30 plus one resilient stories to get to know me better. If you can think of one person that can receive value from today's show, or connect with Dr. Penn's testimonial, please share it with them. Feel free to take a screenshot of this week's episode of the podcast and tag us on Instagram. You can tag myself at Only Cleoni or Resilient Minds 365, and today's guests at the place at what she has listed. I will be putting them under the show notes so you can find her. And remember, mental health is not a death sentence. Despite your mental illness, you can strive, you can thrive, and you can live a life of abundance. Until next time, I'm Cleoni Crawford, and I'm signing off.